All right, welcome to another episode of Closers Are Losers. Today, my co-host, my business partner, CEO, Matt Ryder, is traveling. So we're having a special guest today. We are having Talis. Talis, you are the Vice President of Revenue of Seventh Level, and I still cannot pronounce your name. Your last name. How do I pronounce your last name? It's so hard for me.
Couto.
Couto.
Mm-hmm.
I like
Not Couto, is Couto, but it is what it is, brother. You can call me whatever you want. You earned it.
So I brought in our Vice President of Revenue, Talis Couto. We're going to talk about an interesting subject. We're going to talk a little bit. We're going to weave in Talis's journey because he hasn't, he just started in this position, a couple months ago, wasn't it? Something like that. A couple months ago, you started with us?
Pretty much.
Yeah, something like that. So we're going to talk about his journey because he was a client a couple of years ago. He wasn't in sales at all, never was in sales, got into sales, got just, nose punched in with some techniques that he learned in the beginning, and then got into NEPQ and started crushing it. And eventually Full Circle came around and did so well as a salesperson in the company he was working for. That now he's the Vice President of Revenue for the entire company of Seventh Level. So Talis, I want to weave in kind of your story today for all these young blood salespeople that are listening to us, or entrepreneurs, or whoever's listening to us today. We have so many different types of people that download the show, and I want to weave in your story with really the top maybe 4 or 5 attributes that you feel a top 1% salesperson really needs. So let's kind of weave that in. So let's walk back. We're on page 15. Let's walk back to page 1. So Talis, a couple years ago, before COVID, you weren't even in sales. Where were you at? What were you doing?
Believe it or not, I'm going to bore people with my story again, but
okay.
I was doing events. So a lot of hard work building events for big corporations like Rolex, Fidelity, Ocean Spray, and all the big guys out there, making a whopping 39 grand per year.
You're making 39 grand a year. Now, when you say we're doing events, what were you doing? Like setting up chairs? What did they have you do?
Pretty much, I would manage the crew that was doing exactly what you said, setting up the chairs, setting up the events, the stages, decoration, everything else.
We're managing, running the show, making 40 grand a year, and then COVID hit and no more events. And what happened?
No more events whatsoever. Then Talis didn't have a job. Right? So I got a text from my boss, and I love him to death. A hug, Ty. I'm very grateful. But he's like, hey, man, you can still work with us. But as you know, we don't have any events, which means there's not a lot of money to be made anymore.
Yeah.
Right. I made 39 grand, but the bulk of the money came from the events.
Of course.
Right? So he just said, hey, you might be better off doing something else. So I got laid off, and the rest is just history. I decided to transition into sales.
Yeah. So what caused? Everybody has to know before we go into some of these attributes we're going to share. What caused somebody that is like a manager, telling people what to do to be like, hey, I want to go into sales? Like what was going on in your mind?
So to be completely fair, it was the money, right? So I don't know any place in any part of the world that somebody that might not even have a high school diploma can earn as much as like a neurosurgeon.
Sure, that's very true. So what did you get into? Like, what type of sales job did you first get to a couple of years ago?
My first sales job, it was selling a high ticket product. Actually, I don't think I told you this, Jeremy.
Okay.
Did you know that I tried to get a job, and this sales manager at this place, it doesn't matter who he was, he said, hey man, you can't sell. you have this accent. You should consider doing something else.
So he's like, whoa, you have this accent because you're from...
He role played with me, and he literally said this, hey, look, you can't do sales. You might as well just go do something else.
If they knew where you were at now, I bet they would be crying to have you back.
No, I'm very grateful. That person made me realize that I wasn't ready. At that point, that was true.
Yeah.
I didn't have the skills.
Yeah.
So
So
he
you got
kind
a
of opened the
different
door for
sales
me.
job. So when you say you sold high ticket, because we have people on here that sell 200, 150, 160 different industries. What does high ticket mean?
In terms of when I started, high ticket for me was like $5,000. That was like the course price.
What type of company were you? What kind of company was it? Like, what were you actually selling?
I was selling basically a training program that taught people how to make money with Amazon.
Okay, so it's okay. So I'm familiar. So it's like Amazon. What is it? SBA,
Amazon
FBA, where you teach people how to like start an Amazon distribution business where they're making money from kind of partnering with Amazon. Okay,
yeah,
so
pretty much.
You got started in that industry. Mm-hmm. I think this was before you started learning NEPQ. And what happened?
Yeah, so I had very, very, very dready sales calls, like 2 hour long. Okay. That I couldn't close nobody. I couldn't help anybody get out of their own way.
Yeah.
I was making an amazing $1,500, $3,000 per month, taking like 60, 70 calls a week. A lot of opportunity wasted for that business owner. Sorry about that, man, if you're hearing this podcast.
All right. So you're like, okay, man, this is not working. I need to learn more advanced skills. How did you find out about NEPQ or 7th level? Where did that start from?
Yeah. So it was an ad on Facebook that led me to a different training program.
Okay.
And on this training program, everybody was like, hey, I learned this from Jeremy Miner. The other person's, oh, my buddy, Jeremy Miner. Oh, this is a question from Jeremy Miner. I learned this from Jeremy Miner. I'm like, who the heck?
Who's this guy? Yeah. Who's this guy?
Then I go on YouTube.
Yeah.
And I find you in your videos.
Yeah.
And I booked a sales call and I bought like right away. I don't even remember what the training program was.
You probably got into like NEPQ 2.0, and then after a little while you got into like our advanced inner circle. What type of results? Let's talk about some of the results you got, and then I want to jump into like attributes you see now from like top 1% salespeople. But what type of results did you start getting? You went from $3,000 a month to what?
Yeah, I was making 3 to 5, and then 7. 13, 20, 25, so on and so forth. And this was like in a very short span of time.
Yeah.
For some reason, NEPQ just resonated with me. I think my advantage was I didn't have to unlearn all the bad mistakes that like a more,
you were just fresh, wide open, right? You didn't have
to. I just learned from the best right from the get-go.
Unlearn bad stuff. All right. And you became a legend. I think you got up to like $40,000 a month in commissions, or I think even more. I think you started making more than that. I don't know. You're making too much money. It's just crazy. You even sent, I know you're in the advanced inner circle, and you sent a picture one day. You're like, hey, I just closed this like $275,000 deal. I'm like, whoa, you just made like 15 or 20 grand on that. That's crazy. Good for you, man. How did that feel going from like, couldn't close anybody? Like you couldn't close like a wet paper bag. To then selling $250,000 deals with ease.
To me, it made me rethink my life. I'm like, what was I doing?
Right.
Meaning, it felt like I wasted 30 years of my life.
You made in one commission almost as much as you made in your old job an entire year.
Yeah. Now, one deal that I close, I make more than I made in a year, in a day. And it made me rethink life. It's like, hey, I didn't know this skill. And this costed me so much. I could have been so far ahead, but I'm grateful that I'm here as well, right? It's like,
yeah, you are, so we're like, man, this guy is crushing it. We need to bring him on board here in the company. And so now you're the vice president of revenue working with Marco, or chief revenue officer. You and Marco are a good combo. He's from Italy. You're from Brazil. Second language is English. I love it, man. We're just we're a whole company of immigrants over here. My family's from Wales, back in the day. There you go. We're all immigrants. Okay. So let's talk about attributes. So I want to talk about, a lot of times we'll talk about how to build sales teams on the podcast. We'll talk about, we'll give them some tactical skills. We give them little nibbles here on the podcast, here and there, things to do. Of course, in our advanced training, they get everything here, but we just give them little nibbles. But let's talk about some attributes. So as you became a 1% earning sales professional, really in any industry, making that type of income we're talking about, what's maybe one or two attributes in your mind that you developed yourself, or you see in other like top 1% salespeople, as far as like attributes they have that really set them apart from everybody else in your mind?
I think 2. I'd say 3, right? But like the first one, in my opinion, is ego.
Okay.
You got to get rid of your ego, because in order for you to become top 1%, you have to believe that you can always learn and grow and develop more skills and be better than you were yesterday.
Let's talk about, I think that is probably, if not the biggest attribute you have to have. It's
my perspective. I think it's the biggest, because that will prevent you from getting anywhere else.
Yeah, because I always say low six-figure salespeople have massive egos, right? They make 125 grand a year, 150 grand a year, and they're like, I know everything about sales. I'm the number one person in my company. Like, nobody can teach me anything. And because of that ego, their income stays the same. I always say, let go of your ego, and your income will always increase, because you always have to realize you don't know everything, And we, me and Matt talked about this a couple of weeks ago on the podcast. We talked about NEPQ is always evolving. It will always get better every single month, every quarter, every single year. We add more trainings. We do more for our clients. It will never stay the same. It'll always evolve. And you have, as a salesperson, you have to always think, how am I evolving? How am I? I can, if there's somebody out earning me, if you're a salesperson, you're like, hey, these people are earning me and they're in the same industry, or, this guy made this amount of money, now he's training salespeople. Like, what can I learn from them? And maybe I'll earn an extra $1,500 a month, but that adds up, right? But if we have our ego up where we think we don't need to learn anything, that's when we just start regressing.
Exactly. I feel the same way. I think I heard you say that. I can't remember where.
Yeah.
Salespeople that have an ego, they tend to have skinny kids.
Stay at I know. High ego salespeople have skinny kids, right? It's those zig.
And this is just a joke, but it's like, I believe that everybody can change, right? Once they see what's possible. I feel like, Jeremy, these people haven't been exposed to an approach like NEPQ to see what's really possible.
Yeah.
That's the reason why they really have an ego. It's like, it's not fault of their own, I don't think, the majority of the time. It's just because they haven't seen what else is there. Like, oh my God.
Yeah. Like we always talk about, you don't know what you don't know, right? Like what is the biggest problem in sales? The biggest problem in sales is the problem that you don't know you have. So repeat that to everybody. The biggest problem in sales is the problem that you don't know you have, because if you don't know what your problem or problems are as far as your sales process, it's impossible for you to ever go out and be able to tweak and learn from somebody to fix that if you don't even know you have a problem in the first place.
Exactly.
Okay, so ego, that's a big attribute. What do you think the second biggest attribute is?
I think the second one is definitely commitment, right? So they got to be committed to change.
Yeah.
And what I mean is, it's easy to say, hey, I got my ego out of the way. Now I want to make the 20, 30, 50 grand per month commissions.
Yeah.
If you do not commit to making that happen, it's never going to happen. So I think commitment comes in two ways, which is you got to commit to make a change, and you have to have the discipline to stick with it.
I think that's so true. I think commitment is such a big deal. Like, I look back in my early sales career when I first started, and even though I struggled because I didn't know what I was doing, I was learning from all the gurus. It didn't really work. I was trying to bring in what I was learning from behavioral science in college into my sales process. And there was always these struggles I would go through because I was trying to figure it all out. And I didn't really feel like I had that many people to help me, because nobody knew that, I guess, at that point. So, but I was committed. That was the biggest thing. I was like, I am going to learn how to do this. And not only will I learn how to do this, like, I will be the best at this. And so I did what no one else was willing to do. Like, I went the extra mile. So, I think about commitment. The person that always comes to my mind when I think about commitment are like Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, like those type of people, like, Tiger Woods, like they are committed to being the best. Like, they are driven, not necessarily for the money, that's good, but they're driven to be known as the best, right? So they wake up at 4 or 5 in the morning to put in that extra practice, extra skill level. There might be other people that are just as athletic as them in their profession, but they don't outlearn them. They don't outwork them. And that's why the greats will always be memorialized, because they go the extra mile. And I think as a sales professional, if you want to be great, if you want to make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in commissions, if not more, like, Talus, you have to be committed to, spending an hour a day learning, being able to invest money in advanced sales training to learn how to advance tonality, be able to go to seminars. Because if you're not committed to do that, you're just, there's going to be other people that are going to be more committed that are going to out earn you for sure.
Yeah. I agree 100%. It looks like it's a simple thing to do.
Yeah.
But as you commit, you're going to deal with the problem, so on and so forth. And the majority of people just, hey, you know what? I'm going to revert back to what I was doing.
Yeah.
Therefore, they just go back to the $5,000 per month and they stay there.
Well, they become comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's not a good spot to be in. All right. So that's the second attribute. What do you think the third biggest attribute?
I think the third
has to have.
Yeah. So, on top of like getting rid of the ego, then committing to really making a change, I think they need to have a full understanding of what selling actually is.
I think that's a good point. Yeah. Tell us what you mean.
So me personally, what I mean is I used to think that selling is just getting somebody to do what I wanted.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. So kind of like telling them and convincing them that they should do what I was saying that they should. And I had the best thing ever, even though my intentions were good.
Yeah.
That's not what selling actually is. I understood in my perspective that selling is actually change. Get somebody to realize by themselves that changing from where they are to where they want to be is in their best interest without you telling them that.
Yeah, because that's just going to go in one ear out the other if you tell them.
Having them realize it. You question their way of thinking. You question their decision-making process. You question why they still have been there after 25 years telling themselves that they want to be somewhere else.
Right, exactly. So that brings up an interesting concept. I was at a keynote last week and I said, hey, what's the definition of selling? Well, the definition of selling is just change, right? That's really what sales is change. It's about how good you are at getting your prospect to view in their mind that it is far less risky for them to purchase what you're offering, to change their situation and get the results they want. That doing that's far less risky for them than them doing nothing at all, staying in the status quo. Their problems stay the same, which is more risky. And your questioning ability allows them to see by your questions, the questioning and the tonality ability you have allows them to see that, whoa, it's way riskier if I don't purchase what this company's offering. If I don't get what I want and get the results, solve my problems, that's way less risky than not, right?
Exactly.
And once they realize that, the sales make, period.
Pretty much. So I have a question for you, Jeremy. I'm curious. I was thinking about this the other day.
Yeah.
When you're talking to salespeople, usually they are aware of the process that they're going through because that's what they do every day.
Yeah.
Why do you think, or in your mind, why do you think they're so resistant, or why do you think they ask you to do things that they do to their prospects that doesn't work? So, for example, if you're talking to a salesperson, they will tell you, I know what you're doing. Just send me some more info.
Yeah.
Why do you think why do you think they want you to do things that they know as a fact that doesn't work?
Yeah. Well, that's what I would always ask it. If somebody, like if you're talking to a salesperson that books in a call because they want to sell more to make more money, and they're like, well, just send me the information. I'll say if I'm interested. Yeah. Well, I could, but how many of your prospects that you talk to tell you, send me information and I'll get back to you if I'm interested? How many prospects tell you that? Oh, I don't really know. Well, if you really thought about it, how many prospects actually tell you that?
Exactly.
And if you just sent them that information, if you just did what they said, how many of those people have actually bought from you?
Ghosted.
So I can teach you how to do the exact same thing and you're still going to get ghosted. Or we can teach you how to help them overcome that so you can actually make those sales. Which one do you want to learn?
Right. So from the human behavior type of aspect, why do you think they do that? Because they're more aware than not that it doesn't work.
Yeah, I think most salespeople, Matt always says this, I think most salespeople get the objections that they give. And I think it's hard for them to overcome those objections because they give the same objections themselves. And so they give the same objections psychologically. And I think it's hard for them to overcome it. So I think they give the same objections. So I think, if you're talking to a sales professional like that, you just have to just like I did, kind of question that way of thinking that's allowed them to lose sales from the same reason. And hey, we can train you how to keep losing sales like that. And we'll just send you information, or we can train you how to prevent that objection from ever happening. Which one do you think is going to make you more money?
I'm right there. So what do you think that the traits are, the three biggest traits for?
Well, I think the traits that we went over, and I think another big trait is just being prepared. I think most salespeople are, and it's kind of weird, are just not prepared. And I think sometimes the companies just don't train them the right way to be prepared. And a lot of it's just them. They're just not prepared. Look, if you're getting the same objection every single day, every single week, you probably want to learn what you're saying and asking in that conversation that's triggering that objection to happen. And then once you learn, oh, this is what I'm saying that's possibly triggering this, and you reword that, you change that process, you change the questioning up, and you start preventing that objection. That means you're prepared. Yeah. But if you're getting the same stuff over and over, and you're just going through the motions and losing sales like that, you are not prepared at all. If I got an objection.
Do you think they calculate how much commissions they're losing by not doing that?
I don't think most salespeople do. I
do that. I still do that every day.
Yeah. Well, when we get on calls with them, we ask them okay, how many leads do you talk to? Out of those, how many you're converting? Okay, what do you think you're saying or not asking that's causing the other 80% not to buy? Okay, and how much do you get paid per sale? And we're adding up on the calculator. Okay, so you're losing about $2,000 a week in commissions. So 2,000 times 4, that's okay. You're losing about 8,000 a month in commissions times. Okay, so you're losing about $100,000 a year in commissions. I think most salespeople don't realize. They're like, oh shit, you mean to tell me if I learn advanced skills, I don't have to lose the $100,000 a year in commissions. I get to keep that, and it causes salespeople to whoa! I don't think they realize how much money they lose.
Yeah, I don't think either. Right until you kind of I don't know, open that Pandora box in their mind. It's oh man,
open the treasure chest, the dust, the box that have been open. So it's really about preparation. If you're a professional salesperson and you're hey, I want to make a lot of money, stop saying that unless you really want to be prepared, because you're
what's funny, Jeremy? No, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but if you think about this, everywhere else, let's say sports, a guy like Kobe Bryant, right? Yeah, he didn't start in the NBA. Yeah, he started preparing himself throughout his whole life. Tom Brady was I don't even remember the pick, 100 and something.
The last pick.
Yeah, he prepared his whole life to be the greatest. But it's behind the scenes that nobody's taking a look, nobody sees it, right? Yeah. This is something that I was talking to a prospect the other day, and the person is like, oh, I don't need more advanced training, so on and so forth. And then we dissected this exact process, and the person realized, oh man, I'm losing $180,000. The business owner probably lost $1 million, $2 million. That's more money that they could put into more leads for me to make double, triple, quadruple. So I'm doing the business a disservice and myself a bigger disservice, because I could be doing 3, 4, 5 times more.
Take a look at it. Hey, I hate to tell you, if you don't think you need to learn more advanced skills and you find out you're losing all that money, well, guess who else is losing that money? Your family's losing that money. Yeah. Your kids financially are losing that money because you can't help them get into better schools. You can't help them, do different things in life. Your family's losing that money. You have a relative that has cancer and you can't help them out financially, maybe to get on their feet. Well, they're suffering because of you. The charities that need your money to help people are suffering because of you. Your church that you go to that needs more donations to help other people, to feed the homeless and stuff. Well, they're suffering because of you. It all has a butterfly effect that's based on your skill level. And if we're so egotistical to think that we don't need to learn more advanced skills and that, whatever, we're happy with the money we're making, even though we're not making that much. Well, I hate to tell you that. People are suffering because you're not willing to learn more skills, to sell more, to make more money for your family, and most importantly, to help your prospects get the results they want. Because if you can't sell to them, if you can't solve their problems, you can't solve problems unless they purchase from you.
Yeah,
So if you can't
absolutely.
sell to them, that's on who? That's on you, salesperson. That's your fault, not the prospects.
Exactly.
Just a different way to look at it.
Yeah, it blows my mind that, like, let's say a salesperson hears an objection thousands of times. It's like, hey, I hear this for the past 15 years. How many times? Thousands.
Yeah.
The prospect, you're probably going to talk to the prospect once, 2, 3 times.
Yeah.
You should be, like you said, 15,000 times more prepared than them, and you still can't overcome that objection.
Let's say if I'm a salesperson, like back in the day in my sales career, if I heard an objection that I never got, I would write it down and I'd be like, okay, I've never had that one before. How am I going to handle that next time? And I would literally go through it, maybe that day or on the weekend or whatever. And when that came up, like 5 weeks later, because it was an objection I hardly ever got, I knew exactly what to say. I knew exactly what questions to ask, and it just went away. But that's because I prepared for it. Because I'm like, I am not going to lose another sale because of some crazy thing I've never heard before.
What's the best way for somebody to get prepared, to really prepare to make as much commissions as they can?
Well, you got to learn the right skills, right? So whatever level of income you're at right now, if you're listening to this as a sales professional, or if you're a business owner, whatever level your income at right now is always going to be the same because your skill level is the same, right? So what you're saying right now, what you're asking right now has gotten you to this income level. If you see me right now, you can see, if you're hearing me, you're just gonna have to put it, but whatever income you're at right now, what you're saying and asking has gotten you there.
Yeah.
Okay. If you're wanting to double that, what are you going to do? You're going to work twice as many hours? You work 8 hours a day now. You're going to work 16?
That could be a problem,
happen, right? So if you want to double your commissions, you want to triple your commissions, you can't double or triple your working hours. You can't clone yourself yet anyways, right? You can't just like make 3 Taluses. So you have to learn more skills. You have to learn more advanced skills. You have to learn more advanced questioning. You have to learn more advanced bridging. You have to learn more advanced tonality. You have to learn more advanced verbal pausing. You have to learn more advanced objection prevention to get up to those incomes. How else could you do that? There's no other way you can. So you want to learn skills, work with human behavior. You want to learn stuff that actually works. I see a lot of stuff out there that's just repackaged, that's been around for 100 years. And I'm just,
that's crazy to me.
Do you not understand why you're not where you're at? Because you're triggering sales resistance by being over assumptive. You're triggering sales resistance because you sound needy. You're triggering sales resistance because you sound too excited. You sound like a used car salesman. Excuse the pun, because we train tons of car salespeople that make bank, but they don't sound like used car salesmen. People look at them as like, oh, the expert that's getting me what I want, right? And they always go to them. So it's learning the right skills. You learn the right skills and you repeat those skills and you continually keep learning. We call that train to retain. It's pretty much impossible not to make a lot of money as a sales professional in any industry.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It blows my mind that like a salesperson can, like I said, without a high school diploma, if they really want to learn and hone in the skills, they can make more than a doctor that went to school and learned for 20 years.
You can make way more than a freaking neurosurgeon.
Yeah, 20 years going to school for that, Jeremy. And you know what's worse? If you think about this, they think about how much money that doctor spent to go to college and everything else, 200, 300, 500,000. Once you can actually learn the skills here for, let's say, half of the price. And people think it's too much to make as much as
half the price. It's like 10% of the price.
But you understand 5%. What I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. I agree. Yes. All right, Vitalis, I appreciate you being on here. Thanks for filling in, Matt. You're a legend. You're a myth, man, legend. Everybody, make sure you join our free Facebook group. You want to start learning a little bit about what we're talking about before you get into like maybe becoming a client. Best place to go is our Facebook group, www.salesrevolution.pro. So go to salesrevolution.pro. We'll have that here in the notes. Right when you join, check your Facebook Messenger. Somebody on our team will message you over a free training called the NEPQ 101 mini course. That's with our CEO, Matt Ryder. He's going to break down the NEPQ process, neuro-emotional persuasion questioning. You're going to learn some questions right there, just in that little basic course. That'll probably help you some more. And we go live in that Facebook group about 3 or 4 times a week with different trainings, different Q&As, different subject matters. And if you want to start learning more advanced skills like that, like our clients are who are in the same industry that you are in right now, listening and watching us right now, that are probably making 3 to 5 times more than you, not because they're cool or they have really nice eyebrows or, they have really big calves because they work out, but just because they have the right skills now, just message us in that Facebook group and somebody can reach out to you and go over different training options. Talis, thanks for being on. Appreciate you.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Always a pleasure. Thank you for everything you've done for me, my man. Take care.
Hey guys, if you enjoyed these, here's another you can watch right over here. Join our free Sales Revolution group. Click the link below, join us, and we're gonna help you. Thanks for watching. We'll see you real soon.